Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Scott Luton and Greg White here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's episode. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. So, folks we're going to talk to, I know from way back, so I'm pretty excited to see what's going on there.
We are too. Got a great conversation teed up here today. We're going to be diving into the furniture industry and talk with a business leader that's had quite a journey. Andrew Koenig, CEO with City Furniture. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. How you doing, bud?
Wonderful. I'll tell you, we have been, Greg, we have been hitting homers left and right with some of these interviews. And Andrew, your reputation, your ears have been burning a lot. I've heard a lot about you, so I'm looking forward to learning your story firsthand. Before we get into the furniture industry and even supply chain, auto racing, what do auto racing and Andrew have in common, you think?
The Miami Grand Prix, for sure. Right?
Right.
It's down there. Yeah.
Well, so Andrew, we've done a little homework on the front end. Rumor has it you are becoming a huge F1 fan. Tell us a little bit about the sport and how you got hooked on it.
I'm like many Americans that recently have fell in love with F1 thanks to the recent Netflix series, Race to Survive, I believe that's the name. But I just fell in love with it, and when they were coming down here, we believe at City to be strong partners with the community, and the sporting events and the sports teams are really some of the best times when our community gets together and has some fun. So we reached out to them. They happen to be existing partners with ours, the Miami Dolphins. So long story short, we did a huge deal with them to furnish tons of their villas all across the entire complex, basically. And wow. So yeah, we're good partners. I love racing, love the competition. I love the heatedness and, the precision, the focus, the preparation, the hard work, the technology. There's just so many cool things you really learn behind the scenes in that Netflix series that just made me love the sport.
Yeah. And the teamwork, especially in the pit when they stop for like 2 seconds, it seems. Greg, Are you a big F1 fan too?
Probably not as big as Andrew, but yeah. So I'm a big Aston Martin fan, and they just got back into the sport a couple of years ago, and they're starting to get their feet under them. Sure. I love watching it.
Well, so that the reality series on Netflix has hooked a lot of folks, as you mentioned, Andrew. One more question about sports, and not F1 racing. I'm still trying to get into that, but baseball. That '97 Florida Marlins team.
Oh yeah,
man, I think Dontrell Willis is on that team. I think Chucky Carr was the guy that could, get from first to home in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And they won it all, right?
Jeff Koenig. He's like,
that's right. I forgot about that.
He was like Mr. Marlin. He'd been in the organization so long, right?
Still is. He is.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's big in the community down here. He's a good dude.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hey, we're gonna have to have you back for our sports focused show. But for now, Greg, we got to dive into what's a great story out across supply chain, across the furniture industry, and a lot more. So I want to start, Greg and Andrew. Andrew, tell us about City Furniture. Give us a sense, especially for kind of setting the table a bit, a feel for the organization and its footprint.
So the way I describe City is started in 1971. My father and my uncle, a couple of hippies, natural entrepreneurs. They sold yo-yos on the street corner, saved up money as a bellman to open up our first waterbed store. And it was the 70s, and waterbeds were cool then. So Waterbed City started and grew a really nice business up into the late 80s when all of a sudden, though, waterbeds started getting outlawed. And, especially on the second floor above apartment buildings. And early 90s, we transitioned into City Furniture, a full line home furnishings retailer. To the right of us was Rooms to Go, which was a new startup essentially that came down from the Northeast, and to the left of us was the #1 furniture retailer in the country called Levitt's Furniture, if you remember them.
Oh yeah.
And fast forward, we're City Furniture to this day is the #1 home furnishing retailer in South Florida. We've now expanded into Central Florida, both Orlando and Tampa. So we got about 3,000 strong, about 35 stores. And we have 4 distribution centers throughout Florida, 2 different headquarters, one here in Tamarack, a little west of Fort Lauderdale, and one in Plant City. We're all about letting our corporate office folks work from wherever. Of course, we got our stores and our warehouses where everybody's pretty much positioned at there. So we got a lot of people, a lot of stores, a lot of sales team, a lot of operational focus. And we focus in the starting price point, product lineup, all different various trends, pretty much all the popular trends. And then we'll go up in price points to what I like to say, like a lower high end. Think of like a BMW. We're not going to sell Aston Martins or Ferraris, but we'll have really beautiful step up product that can compete with the Williams Sonomas, the RHs, but be affordable, but still very stylish. And from a supply chain standpoint, we actually have it all in stock. And that's something, my uncle was always strong about, just making sure we satisfy that customer as soon as possible. So we've been doing same day delivery since 2001, way before Amazon made it cool. We have customer pickup. And so we're all about fulfilling that customer as fast as possible, whatever price point, whatever style, whatever trend they want it, as quickly as possible.
Okay. So Greg, before I follow up with another question with Andrew, one question for you, Greg. Did you ever have a waterbed? Going back to the earliest part of Andrew's answer.
I did by marriage. I got a waterbed by marriage. Yes. My fiance, now wife, had a waterbed, and it was the old fashioned kind with the wood sides and no baffles in the mattress. Yeah.
The wavy one. Yeah.
Well, speak to Greg, we got a good feel of the organization and Andrew's response. What comes to your mind?
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to give away the next question, which is what might surprise our listeners. So I'd love to hear his answer first, so I don't steal anyone's thunder.
Okay.
There's a couple things out there that are really super unique about the furniture industry that I bet a lot of people don't know.
Andrew, speak to that. A lot of folks, maybe a lot of our listeners perhaps, may not be real familiar with the furniture industry, especially an insider's view. What might surprise them?
I think how adept we are actually in technology, specifically when it comes to augmented reality. We put a lot of time and energy into making sure that all of our products online are 3D viewable, and there's a lot of retailers like us throughout the country. So, the ability to use technology to see product in their home before they buy. That's typically something our customers even now don't realize that we have that capability that they can do. So and we have some even more pretty sweet technology coming that's just going to really blow up and revolutionize the ability for customers to view products, view entire room settings from the comfort of their home or from their cell phone. So I'd say one thing that comes to my mind, I think listeners would not know, is that we got a pretty cool, what we call XR, like a customer experience reality options that they can really see some products in their home.
Okay. Greg, now that we've put the question out there, what else would you add?
Yeah, well, I think the complexities of the furniture industry and the way that City and other modern retailers have really revolutionized it, right? I mean, Scott, you and I talked about going to Hickory and ordering furniture that you didn't get for 3 or 6 or 9 months.
Right.
Right. And if you wanted a particular pattern that wasn't in the store, well, often even if it was in the store, you would still have to wait weeks or months to get it. So that is a huge, and doing that so long ago was a huge step for the industry, the ability to deliver it immediately. And when you see a City store, which is essentially a warehouse with a display room, right, showroom,
Right.
I mean, you could actually walk out of there with a couch or the entire room or whatever.
The whole suite.
Yeah.
Right.
We're trying.
So I think that's a huge, I know that's old hat for you, Andrew, but I think there probably are a lot of our listeners who don't know that you ever had to do that. You ever had to wait weeks or months for furniture. And in 2001, that was a huge revolutionary change. The other thing about furniture that is, I think these guys have really revolutionized is the notion of treating a retail store like a typical retail store. Even other, we dealt at Blue Ridge with a lot of furniture brands, but a lot of them, they could deliver it in a day or something like that, but it still wasn't in the store. It wasn't a part of the forward inventory, as we called it. And I think that's a really smart thing to do, because even in the relatively small regional area that city operates in, it gives them a huge advantage, just enormous, even over some other local or national chains in their markets.
Andrew, get you to respond there before we move forward with, we're talking about your journey here in a second.
Yeah, it is. I take it for granted, and I think our sales team does too. And yeah, eventually our customers, but yeah, it's a logistical, big challenge to get all that product here to, have, nearly 90% in stock to go into, a Memorial Day weekend and satisfy that within, a day, or even, same day, or customer pickup, you name it. So, you're absolutely right. It's an enormous challenge. I'm real proud of the team. And over the last few years, we've actually expanded our product SKU count substantially. That's helped us satisfy more demand and get more business, but it does make create some gray hairs on our supply chain.
That's a big investment to have all that inventory forward. I mean,
I told you we have 4 distribution centers. I mean, literally south of Orlando, right? That's unusual, but if, we believe if you got the product, take that customer out of the market as quickly as possible, they're happy, the salesperson's happier. And, we all know a happy customer tells, 6, 8, however many people nowadays, and just drives more word of mouth business.
So, Greg, where are we going next with Andrew Koenig?
I know a little bit, mostly from reading. By the way, congratulations to your dad on the Horatio Alger Award recently.
Thanks,
but I know you guys had a very specific methodology of having even family members work their way through the organization. I understand that in 2006, you started in the receiving department. Were you really unloading furniture from containers? I mean, really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't have gotten any respect from the team if, I didn't, shoulder to shoulder with the receiving team. So definitely started there, worked all the different departments and operations. When the time was right, I would, try to take on the next role, team leader, then supervisor. And it was an amazing journey. I'm so glad I started in operations. And, I love our people so much. To start in the warehouse was probably the best thing, because I just respect our receiving team, everybody in operations, tremendous, so much more, because, I've done all that work with them, and to this day, some of my best relationships at City.
I think if you did Undercover Boss, it wouldn't be as big a surprise when you got into the operations of it because of that. I mean, it's kind of the inverse of that.
Yeah, I don't want to be rude to Undercover Boss, but I could never do that, because my people know me. They'd know me if I wore a purple wig, red wig, a beard. They have my cell phone numbers. They know when I gain 3 pounds. They're like, oh, you gained a little weight. They know when I lose a couple weight.
That's awesome.
We're so tight that, it's that could never fly.
So tell us a little bit about that, and a little bit about some of the leadership lessons or business lessons that you learned from that process.
Yeah. So I think I was very lucky to just watch my father just be just a good family business owner and treat his people right. So, there's no secret sauce. It's just have great relationships. We subscribe to a lot of the Dale Carnegie methodology, know people's name, have relationships, really authentic personal relationships. I probably have a city event in my house every other week, inviting 20 people over. And I mean, these people become just, we're just so tight, and we're going to war every day, whether it's through COVID or 2008 recession, it doesn't matter. We're so strongly connected. We know each other, we trust and respect each other. And if you can get all that personal stuff behind, Now let's go solve some problems, whether it's making the company safer, better quality, better on-time delivery, whatever. We're working together. We already know each other. There's no egos, there's no titles. Like, let's solve some problems. Let's make this company better. And then, my dad was really good about rewarding and giving back to the team, when we had milestones. And my mom was awesome about making us celebrate those wins and having big parties. I mean, we've set Fort Lauderdale records for like the best parties for businesses in Fort Lauderdale. Some of these invoices might make you fall out of your chair, but we believe in having fun. I think we just hit our 50th anniversary this past July, and we had a 2,000 person party at the Signature Grand. And I mean, to this day, people are still talking about it and saying this is the greatest company ever. And I'm just so proud of that. Like, I don't need any more. I'm beyond blessed. So is my dad. My dad still lives in the same house for 30 years. So it's just all those little natural characteristics that, we're not a business. We're a family. We're a team trying to make it happen every day.
I love that. Make everyone part of the family in the family business.
Trying.
I'm gonna tell you, the last 2 minutes, and we are recording it, that should be shouted from the mountaintops. Your view on the people that make it happen and how we all stand on the shoulders of those giants. Andrew, hey man, I think we're second cousins in terms of a worldview for that, because that's the important stuff. Since you talked about your father, and of course you're now CEO, can you? And we're going to talk about your lean thinking here in a second. But what's one thing you touched on, how you and your father really view the culture and the family, and a lot of similarities there. What's one thing you think is a little bit different in terms of how you lead versus how your father did?
So it would probably go back to my lean training and development, where I think in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, leadership was expected to have all the right answers to every question. I empower the bejesus out of my team, and I'm more focused on making sure the right people in the room. We are trying to solve the right problem. I'm supporting them. Whereas I would say, maybe the old school leadership style was a little top down.
Yeah.
And I think he'd be okay with me saying this. Like, I think our batting average is much higher because
Okay.
the methodology of solving problems is more team based. And if I don't see the right people in the room solving a problem, and I see it's too much leadership, not people doing the work, or where's HR, where's tech, I'm very cognizant on making sure we have the right system and teamwork, and and he was just, and I think that was just a generation thing.
Right. Yeah, I completely get it. And we're going to dive more into lean thinking. Greg, get you to comment really quick. One of the themes that I'm hearing through Andrew's answers thus far is empowering the team to be successful, solve problems. I love that message. Your thoughts, Greg?
I think that's an incredible message, but I also think we have to acknowledge, Andrew, to your point, is that business complexity evolved over the years. When your dad started the company, there was no tech department, right? I mean, right? There weren't a lot of departments. There weren't a lot of metrics and data and all of that information available. You really had to go by your gut. I mean, I think if there's anything I've seen from the now ascended management team at Citi, it was that they were much more metric and much more process oriented, because you couldn't be when Keith started the company, right? There just was not enough infrastructure to do that. And I think it's a natural evolution of business.
Yeah.
And I think your dad would 100% agree with your assessment, be very proud of how you guys together and now you run the company, because it has been a 52-year evolution of the business environment, right? So it's a dramatically different world now than it was then.
So, Andrew, you mentioned lean thinking. From what we have uncovered, you were given the great fortune to study lean thinking, lean philosophy at Toyota headquarters in Japan, no less. What a special experience that must be. And since then, as you mentioned, you've brought that lean thinking to City Furniture in about 2007. Two-part question. Hey, talk about how cool it was to study lean there in Japan at Toyota, and then talk about how that has impacted the organization ever since.
So the story goes, I read a book called The Machine That Changed the World in about 2003. And in my class, the book really highlights that they're programmed differently. They got a different culture. They have what they call the Toyota production system. And what I like to say is just the system of working together to solve problems. And so read the book, called Keith, my father, and I said, hey, I know you know Jim Moran, who was JM Lexus Southeast Toyota distributor. I said, I need a tour over in Japan, and I need you to hook me up, call the guy, and long story short, he did. And Jim Moran got me just one of the most amazing tours my entire life, and behind the scenes education of what I read in the book, got to see it with my own two eyes. And then I just became an absolute zealot disciple, read everything on Toyota, just been a subject matter expert. So that was in 2003-ish, came back, and I tried to convince Keith, my father, to apply lean thinking to our business. A lot of our business was ran differently at that time. He didn't listen for several years, not until the Great Recession was looming its head. And that's when he really started to see waste. And he was so good. I mean, every birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, I don't care what holiday it was, I was dropping off lean books on his desk, and he read them all. But if you run a business for 40 years doing it differently, it's really hard to change your mindset. Not until that recession really was coming at us hard that he was like, okay, let's do this lean thing. Let's do this lean journey. And since then, for the last 16 years, he's been been my biggest supporter to transform our culture. And so fast forward now, all the metrics are better, all the safety, quality, customer sat. We had record CSAT levels, record growth over the last 14 years. Just all the numbers are insane. And I'm more excited that our culture is just super strong. You could be one day in our culture making ideas, giving ideas, and improving your work immediately, and making our business better. So it's awesome.
So, Greg, I'll get you your comment in just a second, but I got a quick follow-up question. Because as you talk about lean thinking, and you talk about the ability to see waste, which is at the core, you touched there at the end of your response on culture. So it sounds like your team, if I'm tracking with you, your team has really come to be able to see and identify waste. And then you've got that force multiplier effect. Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah. I mean, it's when you learn about Toyota and the difference between companies that have applied lean versus Toyota, most organizations are just missing the people and the culture element. Toyota executes that so well, so that when the time gets tough and we got to solve some problems together, all that people stuff solved. So we can just get to solving problems. And 16 years ago when we started on our journey, a lot of egos, a lot of hey, this is my call, not anyone else's call. And we had to flip that culture completely on its head. And to this day, Keith and I and our even senior team, we're really focused. What we say is we're focused on building systems, not working in the systems with our people, how to create the systems and the culture and the process improvement so that we can take our team to the next level, versus we don't need to be the superheroes coming up with all these genius ideas. And if you can get 3,000 people every single day solving problems, it's going to be hard to catch up to you.
Greg, I know you're chomping at the bit. Your thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, very simple. Two things. One is he saw the recession coming and acted then, not after it had impacted or, potentially damaged the company. I think that is a lesson that every single manager of any company should embrace, because it takes guts to do that. Because think about how long we've been predicting recessions here and there and everywhere. What if you're wrong and you've done all that? I think in that particular case, you're safe, right? Because all you did was make your company more efficient. But still, that's a risky transition. And especially, as Andrew said, you said, having run the company for 40 years at that time in a very, very particular way. And I think the other is this notion of putting all of these brains together, right? I mean, when we talk about technologies like AI, it's not bigger brains or faster brains that makes AI better. It's more brains. The new generation of artificial intelligence, these generative adversarial networks, that is two or more AI brains arguing with one another until they determine what's right and what's the appropriate solution. So that's exactly what this is. You use more of those minds to solve those problems, they'll be more effective and more rapid solutions.
As you shared that, Greg, we've talked about this movie before. And Andrew, I'm not sure if you've seen this movie, Her. I think it came out in 2013. It's got Joaquin Phoenix. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but as you were just talking about, all the more brains and disagreeing, right? And then agreeing on something, and then you're moving a ton faster, folks. If you're all about this digital age and the AI era we're living in, go check out that movie because it'll blow your mind. Andrew, have you ever seen Her with Joaquin Phoenix?
I have not, but I look forward to it. Very
He
good.
basically falls in love with Siri.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long before, and by the way, Siri's not AI, just to be clear, but
That's a good point.
um,
Cool.
but kind of this advanced principle on that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. To your other point, Greg, it was ahead of its time. 2013, this is long before we were thinking about
Is
some of
that
these
when
things.
it was?
Yeah, 2013. Can you believe that?
One thought.
Yes.
Just so if you think about it, like something hit me many years ago, which is like, it's our team versus the competition. We're and by the way, we love our industry. We respect all of our competitors, and they're we're very blessed. It's a great industry. But we
But
all
you
want
want to
to
beat
win.
them. Yeah,
Yeah, we all
that's
want to
right.
win. We all want to win. But something hit me, years ago, and I give credit to Toyota to open up my eyes. It's just like it's our people versus theirs. I remember asking this, learning this really sophisticated problem solving methodology, and the person at Toyota was like, "So, all right, I learned this. This is cool." But they were like, "Great, now you have to get your whole company to learn it." And I was like, "My whole company? No way, no way. Only a few of us can know this." And fast forward, like we're on that way. Like we're we're on a journey to create an army of problem solvers. Whether you're a day in receiving department, you can learn this methodology actually, or you've been a senior vice president or a C-suite member. We're teaching the same problem solving skills to everybody in our company, and I love what I'm seeing with our company because we're getting a little closer to everybody's a problem solver, and that's going to be hard to beat.
An army of problem solvers. I love it. It's like a tidal wave. All right, so let's talk about some of your priorities. My hunch is that you always see opportunity. That's just kind of how you're striking me, Andrew. And I bet more and more the teams is geared the same way. So talk to us, if you would, about City Furniture's priorities when it comes to supply chain performance now, and some of the areas maybe you want to improve in.
So it kind of starts with our vision, and we have some very lofty vision targets. I mean, you could probably imagine being number one in home furnishings retail, the highest level of NPS scores in all of home furnishings, eventually retail, green, positive, or carbon neutral, you name it. So I guess trickle that down into the supply chain world. They have all the KPIs that you guys are familiar with. We always categorize our KPIs into safety, quality, customer, performance, and teamwork. Performance is financial. Teamwork, think of as like culture. So, but it always starts with safety. So we're pushing our supply chain team. They've worked their butts off to make sure that all of our products that we develop all across the world are always up to compliance and really ahead of compliance. So that's just one example. Quality, we're always trying to drive down our defects, whether they get here or whether it's warranty issues in the customer's home, even though it's wear and tear. And if you're like me, I sit in the corner of my sectional for 3 years, and hey, we still got to fix that issue, even though me or the customer doesn't move too much from the same spot.
Andrew, hey, really quick, my dear wife Amanda calls that the cozy corner, and she's laid claim to that since the time we had our furniture delivered. So, but as you were saying,
we from a financial performance side, we always want the lowest amount of inventory, right, to get the highest amount of return on investment, highest sales dollar amounts. On time delivery, we measure all that, first time completion percentages. And then culturally, we want to make sure our supply chain team is really well cross-trained. They need to be learning, Greg, generative AI and how it could apply to their jobs, and where they can apply it to make themselves more efficient, productive, more accurate. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of cross-training there, or just monitoring their morale. So it's not rocket science. We put goals up on the wall and we work together to achieve them.
Greg?
I don't know. I mean, what I recall in the little work that I did, my job was basically to be the pony in the dog and pony show when we started working with City. But I heard a lot of this sort of thing, and I don't know. I don't remember, Andrew. I don't remember what year it was. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago that you guys actually bought from us, but I remember hearing a lot about it. And I just think that this is such a consistent story of preemption, right? Of vision. And I don't mean just far out vision of the ability to see what is coming practically in the business, and then doing something about it when you see it, not when it impacts you. And I just, to me, that jumps out at me right here. Sorry, I know that's off topic for the answer to the question, but that's this kind of is culminating this feeling around the culture and the operations of this organization.
You'd be proud. That team, you're supposed to love everybody, right? But since this is a supply chain show, I'll say supply chain has been like the biggest outperformer since the pandemic. We hit record levels sales because of just their proactive forecast. So you love this. So March 15th, when the world was shutting down, we forecasted sales to drop 85% the following month, 15 days later. And in that first week, we saw, when our stores got forced to be shut down, we saw in the data, our supply chain leaders did, and analytics teams saw in the data that, wait a minute, sales aren't dropping. Sales are slowing, yes, for sure, but they're not as significant. That led to the assumption that, wait a minute, people are going to be home, they're going to buy more. And we were one of the only furniture retailers that I'm aware of in the country that didn't turn off their supply chain. Meaning, so if you think your stores are shutting down, why keep buying inventory? So we didn't turn it off. Remember, our suppliers in those early days of late March, early April, they were like, "Hey, you're still ordering. Everybody else turned off their orders. Is this an accident?" We go, "No, keep it flowing." And because our inventory levels were 95%, probably, May, June, when people were at home and they were all like, "What are we doing?" And I got to fix the patio. My wife gave me 3 or 4 projects. Our sales just actually grew 20% that year, and the following year was almost 50. And I give it all because of supply chain, proactive planning, visual management systems, but they had their guts too. So got a lot of great forecasting, and because of that, they've been the all-stars since the pandemic. I don't know if we can officially call the pandemic over. I think so, but they've crushed it. You'd be proud.
That's awesome. And that is a very rare story. So that's 2 preemptive strikes by this organization. And it goes back to what Scott, you, Andrew, have been talking about, and that is this whole empowerment of the entire organization. They knew they weren't going to get their head chopped off if their opinion was equivalent to anyone's, if that's what they saw in the numbers. So there are a lot of lessons here. Folks, listen very carefully.
And take lots of notes. I'm on page 16.
Rewind.
Right. All right. So I got to shift gears for the sake of time. Andrew, really have enjoyed your story. And really, your passion as you tell the story and tell your company, what y'all are doing. I mean, I don't know about you, Greg, but it's like blowing out my monitor. Just it's like you wear these truths on your sleeve. And I bet you're a great CEO to work for, is my hunch. Let's talk about corporate responsibility. I understand that you and your team there at City Furniture really prides itself on corporate responsibility. I want to talk about this 5% giving pledge, and what is that? And talk to us about the so what there.
So the 5% giving pledge starts back where my father and my uncle were very religious guys, always about giving back, writing anonymous checks to the local church or someone that needed some help, you name it. But I remember 5 years ago looking at our financials, just adding everything up, being like, "Hey, Dad, like, I love you, man, but like the people need to know this. Like, I'm not saying like let's market it, but like they need to know that you are a good leader giving back to the community. In this day and age, we all vote with our dollars, and we want to give it to companies that we know are doing good in the community." So that's when we started. We created 5%. So it's a minimum of 5% of our profits go back into the community. We're well above that. And it's in 5 areas of education, service. That would be like an example of men and women that serve our country, or fire departments, you name it. Diversity. We have strong partners like Urban League, One Pulse Foundation, Prospera Organization. So we've been ahead of the curve, in my opinion, on really trying to invest in, support, our diverse community. Health. My mom died of breast cancer. So And American Cancer Society is our number one partner. Second one is American Heart Association. My uncle, who started the business with my dad, he died of a heart disease early on. He was only 52.
Wow.
So those are two major partners on the health side. And then home. So naturally, we're pretty good at supporting Habitat for Humanity and donating. So we support a lot of their restores that provide a lot of good in the community. So anyways, it's a public pledge. So, when you shop with us, you can feel good that like, hey, we're gonna give back as best we possibly can to the community.
Greg, I don't know, I bet that resonates with you. It really resonates with me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think 5% is a big number. It's a huge number relative to other companies. So it's generous and accountable, and I think that's that engagement in the community is really, really important.
Yep.
Well, Greg, I appreciate you knowing that that's a big number because not too many people do. So I actually appreciate that call out.
Well, hey, we skipped over something I want to ask about before we kind of come down and get some of your career advice to some of our listeners that want to make it in C-suite. Before we get there, I want to talk about sustainability, right? This green promise that City Furniture has made. Tell us about that, how you honor it, and maybe we'll talk about what's next on your sustainability journey.
Yeah, our 2040 green promise is just that. We're trying to be carbon neutral by 2040. So we focus in our recycling efforts, our facilities that we design, and our fleet. So we actually won the greenest fleet of 2021 of all fleets in the country. It's all compressed natural gas and electric. So our head of fleet's been on that journey since 2013 when he's that grumpy old mechanic that you all know. And I remember saying, I don't know if we can do this green thing. He looked at me like, boy, you better watch yourself. And all of a sudden, he's probably one of the most revered fleet mechanics that have gone, completely green. So,
Wow.
So he won the greenest fleet in 2021. Is pretty impressive. We have 5 Tesla semis on order. We have over 250 compressed natural gas trucks. So awesome fleet job. So all of our buildings are built leadership, environmental, energy, and design LEED certified since 2007. I think we have the most real estate in the home furnishings industry that is LEED certified by a lot, hundreds of thousands of square feet. I'm really proud of this. I just found this out the other day. About 25% of our power is powered through solar panel, FP&L solar together program. So,
wow.
And in just 2 years, we'll have 1/3 of our energy be powered by the sun. So I think we're actually well on our way of beating the target of 2040 to be able to say, hey, we're carbon neutral. So we're really excited. My whole team's all in on this. Just like the giving, the green stuff is almost just as motivating for our team. So you buy certain products from us, we plant a tree. I mean, we do it all, and honestly, it's the right thing to do, but it also helps us save a lot of money for our business, and it attracts new customers, and it helps retain our associates because they just know we're a green organization. So, and I can talk for hours about what we're doing there.
So it's important.
I want you to say that first part loud for the people in the back. Go ahead. Sustainability can actually save money for your business. I think that there is an enormous perception out there that's very, very costly.
Yep.
To be green and sustainable. So
Greg, this is for real. We're probably, and I say this publicly, not to brag, but to hopefully get more people doing what we're doing. Compressed natural gas, I think our gallon, they call it gallon gas per equivalent of like diesel. Ours is of what, like $5 a gallon or $4 a gallon. We're at about $1.35, $1.50. So our payback when we went all in on green in 2014, 2015 might have been a year and a half. Now we were changing out the fleet at the same time, but we get 1 year's or 1 month's bill from the government in a check saying thank you for being compressed natural gas. It's a domestic energy. It's 67% less emissions. So you're absolutely right. This can save you a whole bunch of money. And there's companies like Citi that actually will show you in your mechanic what to do. We'll tell you where our partners, this is the truck, this is how we fuel it, this is what happens if the engine goes. So we actually put on a green summit last year publicly just to communicate even to our competitors in our market, be like, this is what you do to save money as well as be way more green.
And that's as you started to say on the first part of your response there, It's not only important industry, it's important. It's not only important to your customers, but it's important to your team members. Got the trifecta working there. All right. So let's, as we come around the home stretch, want to pick your brain. You know, we get, Greg, we get asked this question all the time, whether it's on social, whether it's on live streams, you name it. What is one piece of advice, Andrew, for our listeners that want to make it and break out into the C-suite one day? What's one piece of advice you'd give our listeners?
I'm going to cheat. Let me say two, but I'll be quick. So I think early on, I learned how to solve problems. There's a lot of different methodologies out there that you can apply to solve a problem. A lot of people do, and sometimes in school, they don't teach you how to solve a problem. So that creates friction. It creates challenges with your people or your boss or your peers. So learn how to solve problems. There's a lot of different methodologies. Google it, you'll figure it out. Number two, be a subject matter expert in your industry, your craft, whatever it is. I tried to be a subject matter expert in operations, learn problem solving. And then as I grew within the organization, I could apply that problem solving to sales, to HR, to anything. But I think if they want to be in the C-suite, you got to really focus, in a particular area. You're going to be great at business. You're going to be great at supply chain. Or furniture industry, you want to be expert on that industry, whatever it is. I think you got to kind of narrow your focus and but be a broad problem solver so that you can do anything your entire life.
Love that. Be a problem solver, be a subject matter expert, and that helps drive big returns on focus. ROF, new metric coming to a financial dashboard near you. Greg, respond to his advice there on how to achieve and succeed and work your way up the ladder.
Yeah, I think the underlying message I heard, maybe it was overarching and I'm just slow, is specialize, right? Decide where, don't just say C-suite.
Yeah.
I want to be a CFO, because that's a distinctly different discipline than chief supply chain officer or CEO. If you are a problem solver and you pick a niche, right? Let's just say it's supply chain, since I guess we have to, right, Andrew? Let's just say it's supply chain. Get really good at knowing your craft, as he said. Be a subject matter expert and be a problem solver. That problem then solves itself of ascending to the C-suite level, if that's what you want to do. You have to also have leadership skills and be as open and transparent and inclusive as Andrew is. But ultimately, it is that specialization and that commitment to solving problems, whatever they are, that gets you there.
Well said. Know what you want. I love your one of your comments there about being real specific, Greg. It's so important. I think we latch on to these cliches, these broad general cliches, and we don't make as much progress as we want. So know what you want, get specific. Let's do this, Andrew. Really, I wish we had a couple more hours with you. And I don't think you need the sun. I think if City Furniture would just hook their power grid up to you, Andrew, I think they'd have all the energy and then some they would need for the rest of the year. How can folks connect with you and the high performing City Furniture team?
Yeah, well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just, type in my name, Andrew Koenig, and you'll see me on there. Because, hey, marketing is really important and social media is really important. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. The real AK City 55 is my contact, but I'm on all those channels, not only to keep an eye on the marketing world, but where our consumers are, but also there to engage and interact and have relationships with the community, other future young generation leadership. I was fortunate to have a lot of people that taught me a lot when I was younger. So reach out. I'll be out there.
Love that. Andrew Koenig, CEO with City Furniture. Really appreciate your time here today. Greg, before we wrap here today, there's so many moments of brilliance. I'm just going to be transparent about it that Andrew shared here. What's one of your favorite things, Greg, that we heard here today?
I think it's the notion of taking lean and recognizing that it's about people, not about the process, that it's about the people and empowering them to be able to fulfill this process, and recognizing that it takes the totality of your people to be able to do that. I think more leaders need to recognize that.
That's
And
right.
like Andrew, Scott, I'm prone to when you ask me for one thing to give you two. I just cannot wait to go to Andrew's TikTok and see him do Renegade. I am just.
Lord. Oh Lord.
Well, hey,
Well,
I want to double down on that first point, Greg. That's
Yeah.
a great one because Andrew, what you're seeing here, what you've heard here today, and I bet if we walk through and talk with City Furniture's employees and team members, it's not the cliche version of lean. That when folks get it wrong and they use it as an excuse to slash this and slash that, it's about what it creates value and creates opportunity. And it's a mindset. And man, Andrew put it on full display here today, what lean thinking really is, and not that misperception that's out in the marketplace. So thank you, Andrew Koenig, CEO with City Furniture. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Thanks. Good seeing you again.
And Greg White, man, this has got to be one of my recent favorite interviews. Your last thought before I sign off here today.
I actually took notes, Scott. You always get 13 to 17 pages, but I actually took notes, and that is something of note. So that should tell people how important this message is.
Agreed. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as me and Greg have. Hey, be sure to find Supply Chain Now wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe so you don't miss conversations just like this one. Find us on YouTube where it's really easy to watch and listen to our shows. But whatever you do, most important thing we're going to share here today, on behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton wishing you nothing but the best. Hey, deeds not words, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And with that said, we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.